Some of the members are going to vote and will return. At the bottom of this discussion, from the legal point of view, is Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act, which I'm sure you're all aware of, as to the liability of these companies for the speech that is broadcast or is exercised over their social media. It provides that companies will not be treated as publisher or speaker of any information provided by another person. Gets them off the hook. The Earn It Act, which we are debating here, would change that ballgame. Unless there is a provable effort by these companies to police their own product, they would be exposed to liability. And I will tell you, as a former trial lawyer, I invite them to take on the media that ignore that responsibility after the Earn It Act is enacted into law. I hope that will be soon. Ms. DeLon, when you told the story about encryption inhibiting the cyber tips that come your way, I couldn't help but be struck by the numbers that you used. Last year, 32 million cyber tips were sent to NCMEC, your organization, concerning child sex abuse material. Upwards of 80% or 25 million of those would be lost if the companies adopt end-to-end encryption. Would you bring that explanation down to a level where liberal arts majors are with you?
Absolutely, Senator. Thank you. With the end-to-end encryption, again, end-to-end encryption serves a very important purpose. End-to-end encryption with no mitigation strategy for the detection of known child sexual abuse imagery is unacceptable. What we have seen, the vast numbers to the cyber tip line, are because companies have voluntarily, a handful of companies have voluntarily chosen to look and seek out known child sexual abuse material. By simply turning off the lights and no longer looking, the abuse doesn't go away. The abuse continues, just nobody is able to actually investigate, intervene, and help a child. We really support a balanced approach. There are disagreements and discussions between many stakeholders regarding how end-to-end encryption can balance user safety, user privacy, with not having children as collateral damage. We also want to speak to the privacy of the children who are depicted in the imagery that is continuing to be circulated. These are images, as Mr. Pizzurro mentioned, images of children being sexually abused and raped. They also are entitled to privacy. So we do look for a balanced approach that will help support user privacy and not leave children as unfortunate collateral damage.
Let me open another subject for inquiry, and that is the statement by Dr. Prinstein, Mr. Golan, kind of reflects, Emma Lemke, on your decision at a very young age to do something about what you consider to be a problem. I'm trying to square this, the possibility of diverting people from conduct, which apparently is almost addictive in its nature, and move them to a different level. Can you comment on that?
Yes, sir, and Senator, thank you for your question. I think what is important to note is that social media is not all bad. Members of my generation understand it to be a multifaceted entity, one where we can connect with each other, we can explore our identities, and we can express ourselves on a new dimension. The difficulty, though, of reaping these benefits in these online spaces is as they are right now, as the status quo creates it. I, a 12-year-old girl, could go onto Instagram and research a healthy recipe and within seconds be fed pro-anorexic content. There are steps that companies can take to place meaningful safeguards so that this content does not harm young people and so that we can begin to go into these online spaces in a safer and more productive manner, reaping the benefits of a technological era.
Dr. Prinstein, your comment on that?
I agree. The adolescent brain is built to develop dopamine and oxytocin receptors in an area of the brain that makes us want to connect with peers, and it feels really good when we do. The area of the brain that stops us from engaging in impulsive acts, called the prefrontal cortex, does not fully develop until the age of 25. So from 10 to 25, kids' brains are built in such a way to make them crave the exact kind of content that social media can provide with like buttons and reposts, but they are biologically incapable of stopping themselves from incessant use of these platforms. That vulnerability is being exploited by these platforms.
And the question is whether or not on their own, kids can solve the problem. Do they need help?
They need help.
What kind of help?
Reminders telling kids that they've been on for longer than they intended. Helping kids to stop the signals that are coming through social media in the forms of likes, reposts, algorithms that are showing them content, feeding them the next video, feeding them the next post. Those are all actually making things much worse from a neuroscientific perspective. If there were controls in place that were age-based to make sure that kids were being blocked from engaging in this unbridled kind of craving for social attention and dopamine responses, that could significantly address the issue.
Thank you. I'm going to recognize Senator Grassley, and then Senator Coons is going to preside as I make a dash to vote and return. So, Senator Grassley, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks all your witnesses. I'm sorry I missed your testimony.